Weather is warmer, the movie releases are getting better. Chat, it's March Madness. And you'd probably never peg me as a sports fan by looking at my channel. And you'd be right. But like most gamers, I'm all over a sport if it's filled with colorful characters, and I can play it with just my thumbs from the comfort of my couch. I think wacky mascot sports games are a seriously lost art, which is why I bet even the lot of you most versed with video games might scratch their head when I mention Outlaw Golf, and why those of you who are familiar with this series might still scratch your heads when I say I have a ton of love and nostalgia for this series. It's raunchy and silly and just what I needed when I discovered it in middle school. Of the first Outlaw Golf game, which boasts a roster of 10 wacky link-bound athletes. You can choose from Barstool Biker Harley, Less Than Fly White Guy Ice Trey, Brainy Burlesque Summer, Tijuana Don Juan El Suave, Narcissistic Neurosurgeon Doc Diggler, Whiskey Slurpin' Soccer Hooligans Scrummio Duel, Leather-Clad Mistress Suki, Spunky Sports Fan CC, Sadistic Socialite Trixie, and Hostile Felon Killer Miller. Many golf games would stop employing the colorful personalities of their characters at their aesthetics, but Outlaw, from the very start, was committed beyond that. Each character enters with their own personal caddy, following them at all times, providing commentary, and of course, schlepping their clubs. This immediately gives every character someone to play off of, turning paper-thin comedic premises for silly golfers into realized characters. Take Summer, a pole dancer who most gawk at for her looks, who's also a Columbia graduate with a PhD. A funny enough premise, if a bit familiar, but it's bolstered a bit by having Summer accompanied by her caddy, Autumn, a foil who falls more into the stereotype Summer strides above in that she's ditzy and more eager to be objectified than her counterpart. This gives every character in the game an instant dynamic. The way Harley belittles her more demure partner, Snake, the fact that toting the career criminal killer Miller's clubs is an opportunistic lawyer. These characters are indeed caricatures, but it's rare gag designs like these are given such an ample chance to have a bit of inner life right off the bat. Club. An opportunity begotten by partnering everyone else with a personal confidant and punching bag. Outside of a brilliant writing decision, Outlaw Golf's emphasized caddy characters also play into one of its major gameplay distinctions, the composure system. Anytime a player does particularly well, their composure turns positive, making the game a bit easier to play as if the character themselves were relaxing. Whereas playing poorly frustrates the character and meta-narratively reflects their gameplay by making the controls more precise and harder to succeed with. This is a genius reflection of how sports like golf and truly any game can be impacted by one's mindset, made all the more immersive by Outlaw operating on a control scheme that involves the player swinging their club not by timing button presses like most golf games, but by moving the control stick backward, then forward. The precision of the arc of the swing reflecting how straight and narrow the player flicks the joystick. Meaning delicate hand coordination is a huge part of the literal play of Outlaw Golf, and losing your own real-life composure can cause your hands to lose their grip and shake, making the composure meter sort of twofold in and out of the game. You can recover your composure within the game by pulling off successful strokes and putts, or by spending a beating token, a currency that allows the character to take out their frustration by beating up Addy in a slapstick-laden QTE cutscene. The more successful hits you land, the more composure you regain when you return to golfing. This ties the caddies into the gameplay while providing yet another avenue where the irreverent personalities of the cast come to the forefront, and there's truly not another sports game like it with all of that in mind. A great cherry on top is color commentary throughout the game by the one and only Steve Carell.
Wannabe rapper Ice Trey dropped out of school to pursue his dream of rapping and playing golf, a decision that was about as promising as his single-digit SAT score.
These defining features tied together, Outlaw Golf was a basement classic. The quirky gameplay and characters made it a sensational party game. And while it never became a household name per se, you'll find a wave of YouTubers discovering this game every few years and playing on its offbeat courses, being entertained by its bizarre characters. It's not graceful or incredibly deep, but that's what's great about it. It's unapologetically itself in a sea of golf games where your only playable options are white guys in polo shirts. Its small but dedicated fanbase resulted in some cross-promotion for exclusive content at Blockbuster, and eventually a follow-up. 2003 saw Hypnotics revisit the Outlaw characters they created in a different setting, and we got Outlaw Volleyball.
Gee, I almost made you extinct! Cool!
Outlaw Golf stood out with some edgy humor, taking sparing inches with raunchy character concepts, but in a cartoony context that doesn't push the envelope per se. So the opportunity to take a mile with Outlaw Volleyball was one Hypnotics gripped eagerly. Using the backdrop of beach volleyball, the horniest of the sports balls, to drive the T rating bestowed to Outlaw Golf into an M, with fan service and even cruder humor at the forefront for better and worse. A handful of Outlaw Golf's most popular characters are back, and you'll notice they have a bit of a makeover. The sort of cartoony design tendencies of Golf traded for a more realistic approach, and they really, take advantage of that. It was plain to see what potential Hypnotics saw in putting the likes of Summer and Harley in skimpy bikinis, and there's certainly a piece to be said about the misogynistic slant this causes the game to take. You know that they knew what they were doing with these swimsuit designs and animations, and that is exacerbated as an issue when you bear in mind that the switch from golf to volleyball removes the caddy characters, which means the funny foils that emphasize the comedic aspects of the characters were now gone. Meaning Summer, whose position as a beauty with underappreciated brains, as highlighted by her dynamic with Autumn in golf, is really much more of a straightforward sex symbol in volleyball, which leaves very little to be charitable toward in how heavily sexualized she is here. The same could be said for all of the woman characters. Without the comedic routines their caddies allowed in the last game, the MO of this game's animations was serious fan service. To be fair, the men of the cast are in revealing beachwear too, and are arguably also very sexualized. But I've been around the block enough to know that equal opportunity doesn't fix a problem per se. And there's maybe some level of male power fantasy versus female fantasy conversation here, but I don't feel incredibly equipped to delve into that. With all of that intellectually acknowledged, I am not made of stone, and hell, I imagine if the right circles rediscovered this series, the recently liberated mean video game girl fanboy crowds may not be ready for the truly unruly ladies introduced in Outlaw Volleyball. If you like Juri and Street Fighter, I gotta imagine some of that same draw is there for Chica Chavez.
All right, let's get this freaking game over with. I got places to go and people to jump.
Volleyball also introduces my personal favorite character in the Outlaw universe, Harvest, a hippie chick who boasts peace even though she's hostile to anyone she catches using single-use plastic. Environmentally conscious and scarily violent, she's kind of a perfect woman.
So in honor of Harvest, let's all hug a tree and give peace a chance.
Let's go! I'm having a tie-dye moment!
The pivot to volleyball also allows for significantly more memorable environments than those seen in golf. Lavish beaches and eccentric locales that display way more variety than golf courses ever allow.
Located on the rooftop of a grimy inner-city apartment building, this volleyball court is blessed with breathtaking views of absolutely nothing. Fans flock here for the exciting play and to catch a buzz off the rising bus fumes.
This is pretty much where my praises for Outlaw Volleyball come to an end, sadly. The volleyball gameplay is almost excruciatingly simple, which isn't to say golf is 4D chess, but the intrigue of beating tokens, composure meter, and unique control schemes are not well substituted, as volleyball shakes up the context perhaps too much. The absence of caddies in volleyball means the beatings are traded for fights, where the player can lose their temper and square up with the player net. The fighting engine the game then pivots to is incredibly stiff and provides arbitrary stat changes with none of the inner logic, screwball humor, or smooth implementation of the caddy beatings in golf. The selection of characters also suffers a bit here. The absence of the character's caddy counterparts hurt the returning characters like I detailed before, but also don't give a lot of newbies room to grow. A lot of these characters only worked in the first place with a comedic foil, so these newcomers really have to put in legwork to establish themselves, since volleyball doesn't allow for a character to help flesh them out. Some of them do okay for themselves, but some are rather forgettable, and some are just deplorable. This game's aim toward a more mature target audience for sake of cruder humor also let the writers dip their pen in really unpleasant race humor. A lot of it is harmless enough. Natasha is a Russian KGB agent who parrots action stars like Schwarzenegger and Lundgren. I think that's relatively okay to joke about, but characters like Shawnee come off really fucking embarrassing.
Armed with nothing more than grit, determination, and a great set of tomahawks, Shawnee is ready to exact some vicious vengeance on the volleyball court.
As a white guy, I'd rather present the R and let you form your own opinion, but this is the one big instance I felt there's no way was okay then or now. Jokes about ethnic cultures can happen. I'm Italian and I love the vain, ill-tempered mob wife Donna, but that's obviously a false equivalency for many reasons. On that note, I'd probably be less worked up if I had any authority on if Shawnee was voiced or written by someone of indigenous background, but I have very few conclusive answers to this, and just because I'm white doesn't mean I can't tell if a character like her, or the Japanese Elvis impersonator Dojo, harkens more to mean, antiquated stereotypes than actual satire. Even though I'll have a soft spot for the tone and characters of any of the Outlaw games, this was sort of a letdown of a follow-up to Outlaw Golf, but perhaps a necessary one to act tone and mood setter for what would be the highlight of this IP's short history. Four saw the release of Outlaw Golf 2, and this is where you'll see the lion's share of nostalgia in this video. Outlaw Golf 2 isn't just the best Outlaw game, it's one of my personal games of all time. The joystick-centered controls, composure system, and caddy fighting integration is back from the first golf game, drenched in the more memorable atmosphere of volleyball, creating the best of both worlds that saw a huge amount of playtime on my PS2. It was an addictive golf game, but half the fun was the long-awaited perfection of these characters. The roster was streamlined down once more to the very best of the golf and volleyball lineups, including my girl Harvest being playable once again.
Okay, pretend I'm corporate America. Oh, good. Now big oil. Oh, good. Now pretend to be a doctor and repair my collapsed lung.
This selection of characters felt like the best qualities of the series were being played to. Really, none of the flat or just offensive new additions from volleyball made the cut, and the characters that are carried over from volleyball get the secret ingredient, their own caddies, to give them dynamics and foils that make them so much more than paper-thin, cartoony premises. The characters were talkative in the first two games, but between swings and holes of Outlaw Golf 2, you were treated to straight-up cutscenes, fully realized gags, and genuinely funny ones at that. The writing is potentially juvenile for the taste of some, but the dialogue is well-voiced and characterizes the golfers and caddies beautifully.
If you stop crying, I'll steal an extra cupcake for you from the kitchen.
Every time I revisit this game, I'm so endeared to these unscrupulous freaks, which says a lot about a pampered co-ed who bludgeons her alcoholic mother with a golf club. A lot of animations were made with motion capture, and if you play the game long enough, you'll notice the animations get recycled. But the voice actors perform variations of different jokes to go over the same animations, with the energy of one of those real-time fan dubs, as if the voice actors got to riff whatever they wanted.
This is a trust exercise. You trust me?
Hell no.
You trust my shotgun?
I guess.
Oops! Sorry, son, that was my musket. I'll go get my shotgun.
Us just wants to say it was a pleasure making your acquaintance.
I'm gonna miss that apple stand. I'm an expert marksman. I could shoot an apple off an ant's anus. Who doggin'? Now that's how a redneck gets a haircut.
Paints such a clear picture of how devoted Hypnotics was to making sure the humorous elements weren't repetitive, in addition to just being funny. I appreciate a good in-game cinematic. I think if you've skipped fighting game intro dialogue, you should be hunted for sport, but I know I'm also in the minority there. All that said, I have a hard time imagining anyone wanting to skip the player reactions in this game. They're raunchy little Three Stooges skits to alleviate the stress of biffing a putt and bogeying a hole you know you should have won.
Summer may have lost, but she'll lick the competition.
Hey, don't offer my services unless you see some singles. Haven't I taught you anything?
Germane to that notion, Steve Carell steps down from his role as the announcer in the first two games, paving the way for Dave Attell to punctuate every hole with a punchline, and a worthy successor he is.
Born with a silver spoon in her mouth and a platinum cord in her hand, Trixie is the snootiest golfer to ever lift a golf club. This snob of the fairways has the dubious distinction of being the only person in history to have never uttered the words, thank you, retail, or styrofoam.
I love this fucking game. The characters are perfectly realized, the courses are terrific, it's challenging but accessible, nothing could top it. I get the humor isn't gonna be to everyone's taste, but I think it's a shame how thoroughly forgotten this title is. I'd love to open up some snacks and kill a few hours passing the controller to my pals. So wish we could see a timeline where I'm scoring birdies and bragging about how good I am at beating up my caddy in sequels to this game, but sadly, the Outlaw Sports IP's days were numbered.
Hey, umpire!
Outlaw Tennis came out in 2005, and you might be seeing a pattern here. Hypnotics had something really great with golf that just doesn't mesh sport. Outlaw Golf gave its sport a unique control scheme and created a great outlet for humor. Tennis, much like volleyball, has no room for that. The less revered fight system once again substitutes the caddy beating tokens, and the characters are again lacking some of their old voice without their accessory caddies. But to be fair, they do get to interact with the nerdy ball boy and Heavy G, the stadium umpire, and they fill that void fairly well. On the bright side, the writing as a whole does take after Outlaw Golf 2.
I thank you too. Keep the love coming, lovies. Woo! Come on, bloke. You're telling me you never seen a pierced third nipple? Guess not.
With longer cutscene, that really helps paint a vivid image of these characters' wild personalities. Plus, you get my favorite source of color commentary in the series, this time provided by Stephen Colbert.
The house that pharmaceutical distribution built, this beautiful compound offers all the amenities of a 5-star resort and then some. Full-time surveillance by the DEA, wake-up calls at gunpoint, a severed horse head in every bedroom, and a complimentary money laundering service.
Also had a high point in its extensive character customization options. There is always a lot of personality in the characters' accessories and aesthetics, so getting to play around with that was another huge high point. Though the roster itself doesn't reach the same heights in terms of selection. We switch back to more of volleyball's principal characters and all the ugly stereotype humor that comes with it. This character's joke is still she's Native American. This character's joke is she's Japanese. This character's joke is he's Swedish. This character's joke is he's Jewish and ninja, I guess. It's far and away the weakest cast of an Outlaw game, even if there's great additions like the promotion of Donna's caddy from Golf 2, Vinny, into a fully playable character. You can never have too much dumb Guido representation in my book.
That damn ball boy's supposed to bring me my balls and a beverage. Lying down on a job, you good for nothing, kid. Damn, it's so hard to find a good help that don't die on you.
New addition who feels most like a character who'd fit in something as great installments is Luther Van Jackson. Luther is a mashup of black sitcom characters and a play on the model minority they frequently represent. A guy tug-of-war between high society and his old neighborhood.
Folks, it feels good to break down stereotypes and be a positive black role model. Yo, this Disney needs some hot sauce. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I know.
This character's rude and maybe in poor taste like any outlaw character, but at the very least, there's a commentary on stereotypes placed on black people, even if it, like all satire does, run the risk of perpetuating those stereotypes. I found myself wishing this guy got a chance to be in one of the golf games because he'd fit right in. He's a diamond in the rough of tennis's honestly kinda lame newcomers. Tennis suffers all the same problems volleyball does, with gameplay arguably less refined of features and game feel, making this the hardest outlaw sports game in my experience to make a lot of progress in. But there's stuff to love about tennis, even with that in mind. Most notably, one particular piece of bonus content. When you clear enough of Outlaw Tennis, you get this unlockable video. A montage of behind-the-scenes rigs from the first Outlaw Golf of the characters in early pre-rendered animation, while a somber ballad plays called Dead to Me. You see some of the most fond memories of these characters' origins. The montage carries into animations from volleyball, golf 2, and tennis, and the lyrics being clearly about a bad breakup makes it clear. This is the swan song of the Outlaw IP. Hypnotics went under not long after this game came out, and either they knew it at this time that would happen, or at least they knew they wouldn't make any more Outlaw games after this one. And from this little reel of the team's favorite early animations, you get the feeling they would really miss working with these characters. A bunch of depraved degenerates, some of which you'd have to alter a lot before you put them in a game today, but there was a lot of love put into their personalities, characterization, and even if it ages poorly, mocapping and writing such silly hijinks had to have been a lot of fun. I got kind of emotional the first time I unlocked this bonus. I get a little sad watching it now. The Outlaw sports games were an obsession I stumbled on when I was in the hospital at the age of 13. They were my distraction after a health scare involving my asthma that nurses said may have killed me in my sleep if my family waited any longer to seek medical attention, and they were what kept my spirits up as I recovered. I think that's why I needed something so fucking silly at that time. I was just the right age for a series that was so aggressive, horny, and in your face, and every now and then I still slip the Outlaw Golf 2 disc into a PlayStation and relive just how happy these characters make me. A game about felons, problematic cliches, and hostile overreaction is just what I need whenever I want to remind myself how unserious life needs to be from time to time, just to get through. Maybe now and then, we all have to be silly and stupid, like the Outlaws. If this bonus movie acting as a farewell from Hypnotics is any indicator, you never know how long you'll have the chance. So by all means, dance like Summer, make art like Ice Tray, be proud like Donna, and commit a felony like Killer Miller. Wait, hold on, maybe not that last one.